Bit more now, but we're going to try and keep this meeting brief and to the point because a lot of the issues have obviously already been covered previously. For those that don't know, my name is Mike Bell. I'm the leader of North Somerset Council and the chair of the joint committee, and I'm going to take the very long journey of introducing the other members of the joint committee, of whom only one is actually present. Claire Young, leader of South Gloucestershire Council. I've got apologies from Bath and North East Somerset Council. I'm pretty sure that Kevin will have gone to give me a parking ticket in the council car park, so that's understandable. And hopefully Richard Bonner will come back because I see that he's left his laptop. Okay, so first off, any declarations of interest, please signal if you've got any, otherwise we'll move on. Great. Minutes of the last meeting, I'm going to move that they were correct, even though I wasn't actually at the meeting. So, superb, thank you. And then we've got, we had a few questions and comments from the public. Thank you, Richard. For the in advance of the meeting, which have been circulated with the agenda papers, and I've got two members of the public that would just like to address us briefly on the issues that they've mentioned. So first up, we've got Robbie Bentley. Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to reinforce on the points that I actually made earlier, this is particularly concerning for me, given what we have just witnessed happening in respect of BSIP and the public and other public transport elements across the region. I do feel pretty strongly that this is a serious issue which may well now no longer lie in the realm of the political domain, and I'm very disappointed in the predecessor committee for the combined authority in respect of those decisions that have been landed on all of the residents of Cuba, as we might want to call it, the counties that used to be Avon. And I do very strongly feel that this committee should express its own disappointment and in respect of these decisions that have been taken on behalf of residents who are now going to be disconnected from all the vital services that they need to be able to run unsafe and happy lives. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Robbie, and I'm glad that Marvin has arrived, because there was a brief moment of panic from the monitoring officer that we weren't quorate there for a minute, which would have been a blow, wouldn't it? Because then we'd have had to carry on with the meeting and not actually decide anything. So that would have been really disappointing. Okay, thanks, Robbie. Really appreciate your comments and also your participation earlier. And then I've got Dave Redgewell, who another heroic contribution is still here.
Yep, thank you. Well, I want to talk about BSIP again, but I want to just really try and flag up to get the Service 126 reinstituted along the Cheddar Valley and into Weston. We still have a situation where the 126 terminates at Axbridge. We were promised a tender out for that service in October. We've still got young people unable to get from the Cheddar Valley into the hospital. We've got people unable to access hospital in Weston-super-Mare. We've got people young people unable to access the college. And the bus service improvement round Hutton hasn't happened apart from number 10. So I think this is a real serious issue for yourself and Mike Rigby at Somerset to talk about. I understand is in the budget this time. There is a budget there. It's one of the ones in the BSIP we do have budget for. And it's going to be extended to 2026. So the only other point I'd make on buses is we do need to make sure the Westlink zones work. I'm quite worried about the Westlink zones in North Somerset. They're at the moment, they're big. They cross into the rural areas and they could go to the rail stations and bus stations that they don't do in Weka at the moment. But I'm quite worried that within 20 minutes you may still not get to a bus hub or to a rail hub. And I think that will need some careful discussion, and it may need us to look at whether we register some of those Westlink services as a normal stage service as well as demand responsive. There are ways we can do that with the way. But I think that's a piece of work we need to look at. On Metro West, I welcome the report. I'm not sure where the Secretary of State is because he suggested we can spend some more money on the route from Exeter to Bristol last night, but that was then moved again because it's going to be the City Regional Transport Fund. But that point I want to make is, in a serious note for this, obviously we need to get on with the Porter's Headline. The business pace needs to go in because it's being re-evaluated by February. And the second issue is we need to make the stations at Nelsey and also Western, we need to get the lifts in to make it accessible. So Metro West is a joint project between Wecker and North Somerset, and everything I hear from the Secretary of State is that they treat North Somerset as if it's part of Wecker. So I make the point that we need to make a proposition for devolution to bring North Somerset into the mayoral elections by 2025. And that's a piece of work we should be doing between the four authorities in North Somerset Council and the Combined Authority. If we're going to get a second devolution deal and we're going to make the city region work for the benefit of the community. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dave. Lots of really good points. Just quickly on a couple of things, and you raised them earlier as well, and I know Rosa did as well. We're definitely working on the 126 service and getting that back as quickly as possible. You're right, it is funded as part of the BSIP arrangements, and we're confident that we will get that back in place quickly. So thank you again for your feedback and engagement. Okay.
And thank you for the X5. We're very pleased. Thank you
very good. Excellent. Good. Anyone else who wants to thank us for anything, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, and can I just thank everyone who did submit questions and comments in advance as well, because that's always very helpful. Okay, so next item is to invite the chair of the LEP to make any comments that you'd like to make, Richard.
Thank you very much, Chair. And as a resident of Nelsey, I have to declare my interest, but I completely agree with you on the lift, so it's a good point. So thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts. I wanted to comment today on particularly the review that was undertaken for Invest Bristol and Bath. And having just spent a couple of days away with the team, I continue to be very pleased that they put a lot of energy into their activities. But with regards to the review that has taken place, it was good to see that the mid-term review has reached out to an extensive number of stakeholders, both regionally and nationally. I think that from what we've seen in the report, there has been some very good feedback, and actually the general consensus would appear to be that from the business community and central government, there has been a good response to the quality of the service compared to other areas. And also, just in terms of the interviews with the Investment Wins team, again, nice feedback that suggests that there's a high likelihood of recommending the service from IBB. I think we know that actually the last couple of years has proved a very difficult landscape around FDI. The global pandemic has caused some of that investment markets to shift a little bit, but it's been pleasing to see that the team have generally been exceeding the targets where they've been chosen to reflect. And I hope that the recommendations to set even more ambitious plans and targets for the future is accepted. We've noted over the years, actually, that IBB have been able to really help to broker some of those stronger relationships between the Combined Authority, the local authorities, and in particular the business community. I think as we look into the future models beyond March 2025, I'd like to see, or we would like to see, that we continue to try and strengthen and build on the relationships that have been built up over many years. And I appreciate things like MIPIM, we ebb and flow, but actually when we campaign together, where we have a purpose to what our activities are, it's really powerful, and we tell a really powerful story. There's a lot going on in our region. So we have things like Temple Quarter. We've got the investment that's been made into QTIC, the Quantum Technology Innovation Centre. We've got the Bristol and Bath Science Park, where we recently attended the opening of the IAPS. Incredible facility, the Institute for Advanced Automotive Propulsion Systems. We've got some amazing attributes and facilities, and we need to continue to push IBB really hard to make the most of those when it comes to securing our inward investment. And actually looking a little bit further afield, it's not yet officially confirmed, but the investment down at Gravity for Tartan, you might be a bit closer to that, I think is getting closer to being legally signed, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for that, but actually that collaboration more widely outside of the region. And also with our partners at Western Gateway, we're seeing some really good synergies emerging. And then just in terms of the LEP and IBB forecast and the change requests, in a similar vein to the Combined Authority forecast, it is vital that we continue to recognise that the West of England Combined Authority is changing and growing and that to deliver the significant programme work ahead, we need to continue to collaborate across the piece. The LEP, of course, works across all 4 authority areas, and we recognise that we've got a responsibility to you all. And so until such times as we've got our alternative arrangements in place and we've started to have some of those discussions, we want to continue to work with you. And beyond, we recognise that the government's capacity grant funding is reducing. That will no doubt put some pressure on how that works, but we want to be supportive of all of you as local authorities. I think that's really important, and when we look to the big issues that we face, whether it's dealing with the climate emergency, continuing to propel our community and our economy forwards, or deal with the disadvantages that exist across our communities, then we're here for you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Richard, and it was I was pleased to be able to attend my first LEP meeting only very recently, so that was really good to hear the level of discussion and debate and the different business voices that you bring to the table, so really appreciate your contribution. Okay, item 7 then is comments from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, so Councillor Plowden.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, this probably mirrors what happened, our meeting mirrors what happened this afternoon, as we did not have a great deal of feedback because maybe we run out of energy a little bit by the time we got to this particular thing. So really, it's nice and brief. We welcome the review of Invest in Bristol and Bath and note the successes to date. We're particularly taken by the fact that 75%, I think, of the employees who are benefiting from that inward investment are actually local people, which is really good to see. I'm going to agree with Richard and indeed Mayor Rees that if you're going to have targets, then they should be stretching rather than easy to reach, and we would like to see more ambitious targets in order for this, because we think they may have been met very easily. And then we note there's pressure on the budgets and there's work underway to resolve this. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And then item 8, Councillor Gollop, anything on behalf of the Audit Committee?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A couple of points that have come up through discussion in Audit Committee over the last year rather than specifically on today's agenda, but I think to me they're important anyway. One is in terms of LEP integration, and that seems to me, from an Audit Committee point of view, that we need to know that that is progressing and that it's progressing well and as quickly as possible, because the sooner that is done in a positive way, the better. The second aspect that David Redgewell addressed, and I suspect is of interest to you, but is the position of North Somerset, because the fact is that trying to operate without North Somerset as part of the combined authority has always seemed a flaw. I'm also thinking productively of the monitoring officer's role of producing a constitution, and I think we could make his life a lot easier, and so he can do many other constructive things as well, if we ended up with one constitution rather than the need for something in parallel. The third point, and all of these I'm not expecting to be discussed now, but I think they ought to be discussed at future meetings, is the constitutional one, that very welcome to see you there, but it's slightly strange to see you there with the 3 statutory officers of an organisation of which you and no one in this room is an elected officer of, an elected member. And I think we need to establish the protocols and the procedures of how that is going to work. So I'm giving Daniel a bit of work to compensate. But that seems to me totally flawed at the moment. I can't get my mind around it. I can't see how the accountability works. I'm sure it will work because of the calibre of people we've got in place as officers, but it's not, that doesn't fit in with my understanding of how decision-making, accountability and so on should be. And I think we need a paper that outlines how that is going to work, being brought back with some urgency. So best of all comments in that there's nothing you can deal with today, but I do think they need attention. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and actually really helpful to have those comments because we can get them in the minutes and then it's something that we can come back to. I mean, I think what I would say on all of those is I think we're all mindful that we need to address some of those concerns, LEP integration and the constitutional arrangements and the future of WECA, of course, and it was alluded to a number of times in the earlier meeting as well, and we've all heard the very sensible things that you've said, so I think we will be returning to those conversations in the future. Thank you very much. Okay, so item 9, which has been alluded to by everyone so far, is the Invest Bristol and Bath review. So hopefully colleagues will have had a look at the report and had the opportunity to have some briefings with the officers that have been involved in the review from Invest Bristol and Bath. As Richard and the LEP quite rightly said earlier, there's lots of positive feedback in terms of the impact of Invest Bristol and Bath so far, in terms of the extra jobs and the economic investment that they've attracted to the west of England. But I think it's also right that we're testing that process during this review and thinking about what the future direction for the organisation will be, how it can be funded appropriately and sustainably going forward. And that's something that it's important for all of us to be part of the conversation on. Certainly speaking from a North Somerset perspective, I think we feel that we've got a lot of added value that we would never have got acting on our own, and I think that's also true of a number of the other partner authorities, but that's not to say that there isn't room to do even more and to make sure that we're focused on delivering the things that we want at a local level. I think the recommendation is set out in the report, so I'll propose it. Would someone be willing to second the recommendation? Any colleagues want to speak on this? Yes, Claire?
Yeah, I'm just concerned. It's important there's effective overview and governance, and I know we keep coming back to it today, but it's a really important point. So it's concerning that the service, looking at recommendation 2, that service has still not fully implemented the original full business case proposal to have an advisory panel, the UA partnership working, memorandums of understanding, and a risk register, and it's really important that's addressed ASAP. We need more rigour introduced to the service. And on recommendation 3, it's important that all the options are properly considered and evaluated, including, for example, a potential hub and spoke model, where the spokes, that's the unitary authorities, are adequately resourced, because ultimately any new business wanting to land in the region, they'll need to engage with the unitary authorities to identify suitable land or premises, navigate the planning system, all those sorts of things. So that's all delivered by the unitary authorities. So that's just a few quick points I wanted to make.
Thank you. Marvin, anything?
I guess it's just to put on record, again, just how important it is for us to work together. We do a lot of outreach ourselves as unitary authorities, and as I shared earlier on, that the London Climate Week and a lot of the environmental work we do now is actually about finance and business. So I went from New York to Bordeaux. We're twinned with Bordeaux. I had to sign an MOU. The King came there as well, witnessed the MOU. But actually, part of our time there was with Western Gateway, talking to a hydrogen company there and talking about them coming with the Western Gateway to base themselves over here and making sure those channels are open. So as much alignment as we can have with IBB, and actually having IBB make sure we all as constituent authorities know what we're all doing as well. There's major hubs in North Somerset, and obviously South Gloss as a major tech offering. Then will be more than the sum of our parts, which is what we're in the business of being.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you can't have a better witness for something than the King, can you? So that's pretty good recommendation. Okay, so we've got 3 recommendations in the report. So we've moved them all together in block. So can everyone indicate that they are supportive of that, please? Yeah, thank you. So that's carried. Then we've got item 11, unless I've missed one, which I don't think I have. No, item 11, which is the LEP and IBB forecast and change requests. So again, you can see from the report that we've got a forecast deficit at the moment of £60,000, 60k, but that's already been covered by a previously agreed decision to draw down from reserves to cover that from the LEP core capacity grant. And then we've got a couple of proposed change requests, notably around Metro West for North Filton Station and Henbury Station. So there are 4 recommendations that reflect those change requests and noting of the current position. So I'll move those recommendations and ask for a seconder. Thank you, Marvin. And then does anyone want to speak to that? Nope. Okay, if you could indicate your support for those then, please. Thank you very much. That's carried, and I believe that the meeting is therefore concluded. Thank you very much. Go home.